People more spending
Life special.
Big change today, for instance, in the national
Business secretary,
wage, an increase
MP,
of £1,400 for 3
Westminster,
million workers that make a real
Subject
difference
Talk,
to their earning
UK
power. We know the
25.
pressures are there, but for the first time we are starting to see living standards rise, wages rise faster than inflation. Of course, we
It's
need
the
more of it,
first
and
day
these
of
pressures you're
April's
talking
Day.
about are a key
Tuesday morning, guys,
part of what we're
25.
going to address, as well as giving people that higher
It's
spending
times on
power.
the right
we
over
know
there,
the pressures are there.
7:32
We're
a.m.
trying
in
to
the
make
morning.
that difference too.
It's not just energy bills though, is it? Broadband, mobile phone, TV licence up to date, car tax, water bills, stamp duty, council tax.
It's a black day today.
About a national wage going up, but if it's all going
But
straight
not all
on
businesses
bills,
can afford it.
when are people actually going to feel better?
Well, look, they are.
We're going into a session in 4 years' time. Well, we're starting now. We're going to the session for the next 4 years. No joke.
But the change that we're committed to,
England and Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland getting poorer under this party, Labour.
And it's not just about the minimum
Going
wage.
to
Right?
session.
That is a really significant point for 3 million workers. It's about the freeze to field duty, which affects everyone, makes them better off. It's about the triple lock that we're committed to for pensioners, to make sure pensioners have some insulation against some of these pressures. It's a whole range of free rollout of breakfast clubs coming from next month. All things that make a difference. And of course, at the heart of it, running an economy soundly to see those 3 cuts to interest rates, which we've seen since the election, something that affects everyone. So look, I'm not saying in any way these pressures aren't real, that people aren't under, real on their finances, real pressure that will have them concerned. But we are starting to see the decisions the government have make people better off. We've just got to keep going, do more of it, see that difference. So they really
We're going to the session with this party in charge.
Interest rates. It's not you that cuts interest rates, is it? It's the Bank of England that does that independently. But what you have chosen as a government to do is cut winter fuel payments. You're reducing eligibility for welfare. And people will hear that. They will see their bills going up at the same time. And they'll say, we want you to do more to help us. How can you give more assistance? Will you give people more help?
Well, people on the streets looking for jobs. Well, I say jobs. Be on the streets begging for money.
Fundamentally affects that, and that's why that commitment to sound public finances has got to be the first thing any government is committed to do that's responsible, and that's what we are committed to. On the point on changes to welfare eligibility, look, what we've seen in the last few years is particularly that rate of unemployment benefit for people out of work kept at very low levels. So actually some of the changes the Secretary of State for Welfare and Work and Pensions announced last week were about making sure that basic rate is uprated, that people aren't necessarily forced into choices that aren't the right ones for themselves because of how that system operates. So there's good things coming in terms of that. But look, the commitment from the government is to make sure everyone not only is better,
from the government to make us poorer
benefits everyone,
and to bring us in order to a session.
Changes to the minimum wage. It is also things
That's
like
my opinion.
more secure employment rights and dignity in the workplace. It is more money going into public services. It is also protecting them and making sure there were no increases in the budget, in income tax, in VAT, in their national insurance contributions, fulfilling that pledge to protect working people whilst running the economy and public services.
If I'm on the right side of the screen, do you think what I believe in?
Secretary and Mark
Let's go into a session.
Bar in Manchester, and he's been in touch with us. He says he wants to take on extra staff. He wants to give his workers extra hours. But because of the changes that you are introducing as a government, making him as a business pay more in national insurance, cutting his business...
Opposite what you promised.
He says he can't do that. So it's all very well you say national wages increasing, minimum wages increasing. But if he can't employ people like he wants to and needs to, that doesn't really balance out.
Look, I would say absolutely. I would say to Mark, I know because of that really difficult situation we inherited with the black hole, we've had to ask things of Mark in terms of national insurance contributions. I know that. But I would say to him, first of all, there was no business rates relief at all in the national finances that we inherited. That was only for last financial year. The relief that we put in place, it has gone down slightly, but there would have been nothing in place had the Conservatives continued in office because of that situation. We are committed to the permanent...
Yeah, blame on the last party.
Permanently
on the last party.
Hospitality and leisure from next year. That's part of what we're doing. And also things like employment allowance, which is the allowance businesses receive before they have to pay any national insurance contributions on their workforce. Actually, that was doubled and the threshold was taken off. So for a lot of smaller businesses, it might not apply to Mark, but it will give him some benefit. For a lot of smaller businesses, their national insurance contributions will actually go down. So we're cognizant, we're aware of what we have to ask for people because of the inheritance that we received. but we're trying to mitigate that and make the difference. And those measures are just some of the ways we're trying to do that for Mark.
The hospitality industry is saying today that they're facing being hit by £3.4 billion in the next year because of the choices you made in the budget, like national insurance increases for them.
Well, again, I would say I'm aware and I acknowledge the asks that we had to put in place. But frankly, many business owners, most business owners will know sometimes you've got to make difficult decisions, and that commitment to sound public finances has got to be the starting point for any budget, for any government, and that's what we are committed to doing. Those other changes, particularly to business rates, particularly to employment allowance, are designed to mitigate that, to give some breathing space within those difficult decisions. And actually, whilst I'm not saying it is easy, the employment data has held up so far around those decisions.
We're talking about household bills today. Tomorrow, President Trump is going to be introducing these global tariffs on imports to the United States from countries around the world. There was some talk a week ago that the UK might escape those tariffs. What is your thinking this morning?
Well, this is clearly a very significant development. We've engaged with our US colleagues because we do believe a deal is possible, and we believe one is in the national interest. So from what we understand from the US, it appears tomorrow there'll be no country in the world exempt from the initial announcements, but then there'll be the potential to reach agreement with the US on a better way forward. I believe the work that we have done, which I would want ideally to be frank,
to be
able to exempt us from this moment. I think that our trading relationship is a very strong and
that's a kink in the backside. The tariffs and Donald Trump ain't helping.
To reach agreement. Some of that comes down to the US and whether they want to do that, but I do believe not only can we get to a place where we are avoiding tariffs on each other, but also actually strengthening that trade relationship, giving more access for UK businesses to the US market. And what we're hearing from business very strongly is, yes, it's difficult, but we recognise what the UK government is trying to do, and we want to see the UK
tariffs on America for our cars
in order to have those discussions.
The
so
trade
just to
war.
be clear, you are now expecting that goods from the UK going to America will have tariffs put on them?
I feel, as it stands, that every country in the world will be subject to this announcement from the United States. I believe the work we have done gives us the best chance of finding a way through that, but as it stands, I think every country in the world will be affected by the decision tomorrow.
So that there are talks ongoing to try to reach some kind of deal which might give the UK exemptions. What sort of timescale are we talking about? When might those exemptions come into effect? Are we talking days, weeks, months?
Well, I believe from where we have got to, the kind of negotiations which often take years or months, we've expedited, we've done in days, and I believe that the framework of an agreement is certainly in place. We could sign heads of terms on that and then talk about the detail over a specific time scale.
There you go.
That would be to the US's satisfaction going.
Trump coming into power hasn't been good timing, has it, for the economy of England and the UK together nationwide?
It's a decision for the US, but I believe the work we have done has made that possible. If that's the direction they want to go in, and I believe they should, and I believe we could, and that would
It's dark times for the high street in the UK.
Some of these decisions, it would actually strengthen the trade relationship going
and
forward.
lots of places, holiday attractions especially.
Would we put tariffs on American goods coming into the UK? Retaliation?
Look, I have to keep all options on the table, and if the UK is subject to this kind of action, I've got to take the formal steps in order to make sure we have all of those options available to us. The US would expect that. I think you would expect that. It's a
so much our special relationship with America.
Sure we can have the kind of tools available to us that we might need. But whilst the deal is possible, whilst we can build on the work that we have done, the message I get very strongly from UK business is time for calm heads, remain engaged. Let's try and find a way through this to our mutual benefit.
There you go.
Side.
I think for most of us living our daily lives, tariffs feel like something very alien, and it's not something that we really come across. But the OBR said last week, when Rachel Reeves gave her spring statement, that this could have a devastating impact on the UK's economy.
Exactly.
And on your plans to get the economy growing at a faster rate. And I just want, from the way you're talking this morning, you make it sound like it's all up to America. What America wants, America sets the tone for this. And your critics would say that maybe the UK government should have been a bit tougher, a bit stronger, and stood up to America like the EU and Canada have been doing.
Aye.
A tough response, a strong response.
Not a good relationship with America, is it?
National interest. And a deal is in the UK national interest. So we have been strong, we have been tough, because we've been pursuing what is our own national interest. And because the existing trade relationship between the US and the UK is such a strong and fair and balanced one. There is not, for instance, on the US side, a deficit in goods with the UK, which is something they're very concerned about in terms of some of their other trading relationships. We've had the chance to do that. So I think our response has been strong because we've been pursuing what is right. And you're right to say, people watching might say, oh, this is a bit abstract, what does it mean to me? Well, of course, tariffs affect the price of everything coming into a country that they are applied to. So it's really about, again, the cost of living, it's the cost of goods and services. It's also about the impact on the wider economy. If there's tensions in the world trade system, that will impact upon the UK in every case. So the strong response that we have been pursuing is to make sure the UK is the best placed country in the world to navigate these pressures. Of course, it is not easy, but I believe we've got the opportunity to do that because of the work we've done, the way we've responded so far.
What's gone wrong in the last week? I mean, 7 days ago, we were being told that, a deal was possible, we could be exempt from tariffs. Now you're saying tariffs are happening. What's changed?
Well, the issue here is how the US wants to conduct its trade policy. And they've got a mandate to do that. It was clear that was going to be part of the platform of the president. Their objectives that they are...
You thought we were going to get a deal, and now you're saying we're not going to deal. What's changed?
I think what's changed at the minute is that the US is currently of the view that this announcement tomorrow will apply to every country in the world. And if that is their position, that is their right to do so. I don't think it's necessary. I think we do have the chance to strengthen that trade.
Oh dearie me, we are in trouble with the UK financially.
That's a decision for the US. All we can do is try and make
as usual, we got a Prime Minister of England being lapdog like Tony Blair with George Bush. Not good.
Other parts of the world, which is again something that the
it's not much of a special relationship with America, is it? They're controlling our lives. Well, Trump is controlling our lives, and he must is.
In the national interest, a deal is possible. We've put ourselves in a position to do that. We will remain engaged with our US counterparts to make sure if there is the chance to do that, we can do it for the UK.
Jonathan Reynolds, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Jonathan Reynolds, the secretary.
And it's just coming up to,
you know what I mean, he's a secretary.
And John is
Thumbs up the right side screen. Please subscribe on